All right, everybody, welcome to April's EMS training. I'm Division Chief Alex Conan. So the topic for this training is our cardiac arrest guideline updates. So earlier in the year, Dr. Katie talked about in our paramedic refreshers, a cardiac arrest guideline update. So really, the biggest thing for people to understand with this and to not get confused by is really we're not introducing anything new or different. We're just reordering the way that we do things. To make things smoother and kind of focus on different time benchmarks. So that's the biggest focus of this. We're going to do a lot of repetition with this, and this training and this kind of video is to help people put into perspectives of how it's supposed to look. You should have by now seen the video with the CPR with the plastic sheet, so they were already using those methods in the video. So this will just be a little bit more of an in-depth view. Okay, so looking right behind me here, you can see I have 7 points on top of the screen here. So these are all the main things that we kind of have reorganized. So a lot of things look very similar, but this is just for everybody to review so you can focus on where we are emphasizing changes. So the first point is early compressions. So this really shouldn't be new, but the biggest change to this is when we get inside the house, instead of worrying about putting on the Lucas, the first and most important point is to provide manual chest compressions. So now you see a very close second will be timely defibrillation. So then when we get inside the house, the first person that recognizes that we have a code, they radio the crew, notify them that they have a code. So that second person then ideally is setting up the defib and putting the pads on for early defibrillation. We want to get a rhythm analysis as soon as possible. And then third, we want to our airway management. Number 4, then we have another person inside that is designated for IVIO access. So this can be an advanced EMT provider or higher. So they'll focus on getting the IV. But remember, the above have to be completed or in process prior to us worrying about getting that. Once that is established, we have early epi. So what that means is immediately the epi should be next to the person that is starting the IV. And obviously the paramedic needs to be the one administering. So once that's started, then whoever is dedicated to assign the medications needs to make sure that we have early epinephrine administration. And then you'll see number 6, where we have advanced airway placement. So then after we have our immediate epi on board, then we're going right and we're going to do an advanced airway. Now the biggest key thing that you'll notice a bit different with advanced airway is we prefer an ET tube. So we want to try to get that ET tube as early as possible in the situation after we hit those benchmarks above. Now keep in mind, I know it looks like a lot of things on the screen, but this all should be happening within at least the first 5 minutes, if not even less, depending on how many people you have on scene. So we should have a very smooth process going here. So ideally we get an ET tube. Of course, you can still use the iGel if we don't have the resources there or there's other circumstances, but really we want the paramedics to try to get an ET tube placement successfully on these. And then lastly, then we can go ahead and put the Lucas on. Now I understand we've been drilled that we want to have our Lucas on first, but the biggest thing we found is that Lucas likes to slide a lot, and when we're all doing a lot of different things throughout the cardiac arrest process, a lot of times the placement tends to move. So it's extremely important that we're focusing on really good compressions, we're rotating people out.
Hi, I'm Maggie Ross, I'm an EMT Basic.
Chandler Voigt, EMT Basic.
Nick Hajek, EMT Basic and paramedic student.
And I'm Brian Dorn, critical care paramedic. So today we're going to walk through pretty much what we're going to have for a call. If we do get a call, maybe you're going to be lead initially and set up whatever you need. Chandler, if we have anything substantial, you're going to work on airway right away. Nick's going to be the paramedic student, so he'll be working with myself as the critical care paramedic, and we're just going to work together on anything we have from
3651, you're on scene. All right, so we have our initial EMT making contact, just checking the pulse. So they radio over and are starting compressions immediately. As you see, the second provider brought in the monitor, and he's putting the pads on immediately to assess for the rhythm. This is the first arriving ambulance crew, so the interceptor is on its way with the paramedics. So right away, within the first 30 seconds, we've completed step 1 and 2 immediately, and now our airway EMT is converting over and we'll be starting airway maneuvers. And 3685 has arrived on scene. All right, so now you see the lead paramedic comes in. So it's important that we get that sheet on in line with compressions, and they're doing a rhythm analysis right now. We have a systole in the first rhythm check. Okay, they're resuming and immediately transitioning over and putting the sheet on. So if you note, they're still performing ventilations under the sheet, performing good quality compressions. So now after their next, when they do their next assessment, they're going to switch compressors with the airway and the current compressor will swap. Now the paramedic is going down the IO number 4 since we've already got airway taken care of. All right, so at this time now the compressor and airway will switch so we can have compressions switched over. So it's important to note that we have minimal interruption and we're going straight over to the chest again. So as you saw, the lead paramedic got an IO and immediately put epi in, and now we're switching right to airway as we have intubation in progress. So as you just saw, our airway EMT went and put our HME filter on. This is extremely important for us to get on as soon as possible. Intubation is just about complete, and they're now switching over and putting their end tidal on the ET tube. Okay, so at this time, now they've got that complete, they'll listen for lung sounds as they're preparing for giving their next round of drugs. All right, so now we're ready for our next rhythm analysis. We'll be looking. Okay, so now we see VFib on the monitor, so we'll continue compressions. The paramedics giving instructions. Okay, so now they'll charge up. Yep, and then, so he would charge. Okay, and we'll switch compressors. All right, so now we've got our airway taken care of, and now we just did a defibrillation, so now we can switch to getting our Lucas in place that we've gotten all of our main priorities taken care of. Okay. It's important to note we have a coordinated effort, very minimal interruption to chest compressions, and we're keeping our sheet in place. Okay, so they're still working on getting compressions, and they'll slide up to make sure it's over the chest. So our reasoning that we wait to put the Lucas on is so that we know we're getting good chest compressions. Okay, so now their compressions are started. That completes the duration of this code.